I'm so happy to have you here, Val. I feel like for context for everybody, Val and I know each other from college. So
Time
it's been,
flies.
yeah, it's been a while. You graduated after me. I've been following along her journey, and she just felt like the perfect person that I'd love to talk about through Small Biz Diaries. And I'm just grateful that she said yes. I want to give the opportunity to Val to introduce herself and tell us a little bit about Vitals by Val.
Awesome. Thank you for having me today. Honestly, it's just crazy to think how much time has passed. And for you even to reach out to me, I was like, I don't even know why she would reach out to me. Like, I don't really consider myself a business owner.
Just
But it
a
was,
whole, which is part of the conversation.
yeah,
Like that's part of the conversation. Yeah, yeah.
yeah. So hi everyone listening. My name is Valerie Perez. I am a wellness coach and the founder of Vitals by Val, which is meant to inspire, empower individuals to focus on their wellness and helping you all achieve your physical goals.
How long have you like? Would you say you've been actively working on Vitals by Val?
Actively working on Vitals by Val. Wow. Okay, so Vitals by Val goes all the way back to 2020. So late 2020. Kind of just some context behind that. So taking it back to 2020, it was a difficult year for all of us.
Yeah.
I just finished my master's program and I was looking at a job for like corporate America, trying to do what every freshly new college graduate student does. And honestly, I was just really focusing on like my mental health, my physical health, everything related to like my well being during this process because it was just so hard to really get that job and like focus on myself. So I was like, hey, like I have all of this information that I've just gathered over the years, and I wanted to have a platform and a space that I could build like a community that revolved around wellness and could inspire each and every one of us to just to like really focus on our well-being and just being a better person. So during the process of me looking for a job, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna take some time and do something like more creative outside of the box of what I've done. And Vitals by Val was born.
Well, it's funny too because I feel like people always say, you find yourself in college and you like do a lot of like soul searching, but I feel like I didn't really fully understand who I was and how different parts of your life really have to intertwine, or you have to like, really check in with yourself on different parts of your life, like physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally. I feel like I truly didn't understand that until after college. It was one of those things where you get thrown into, I mean, whether it's a job or what you're going to do next, that you start to have to realize that there's a little bit of like ebbs and flows,
Yeah.
figuring out what the vitals are of, what you're doing, whether it's work or spirituality or balancing personal like things that come up. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's just I love the idea and concept behind it because it's so important for us to like check in with ourselves. I mean, even as entrepreneurs, just the journey that everyone's on is so different, but also the feelings and emotions can all be similar. Yeah, that's, I mean, a big part of why we're having this conversation
Yeah.
and Small Biz Diaries is out there because I want people to understand that there's a vulnerability behind it to do what you did and amongst COVID and everything else that you had going on. So, how would you kind of describe your ebb and flow of that time?
Yeah, and I love how you perfectly said it. The vitals of your life. Like vitals is, what's essential, what's your life. And for me, like kind of relating to you that college, I was just kind of on a go, 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 go mode. I was a very high achieving person, top of my class. I was just really into it. And I never took those moments to really check in with myself. I was more just checking off a box instead. Like,
Right.
got the A, I'm showing up, I'm going to all these events. And that's, I want to say a lot of the things that I experienced in college and during my master's program was what really were like the catalyst moments of my life because that's where I really was like, wait, like this is not making me happy, or wait, I feel like I'm not being the best version of myself, or I was putting up a front basically of like who, like I was authentically being myself and I tried to always be myself in that sense, but at the same time I just was like, this is not truly who I envision myself to be, that the best version of myself. So, okay, like let me take a step back and really evaluate what is it that I want, or take those lessons that I experienced in college and my life prior to, where I am now, and how can I, relate to people and share that with other people. So with my journey with Vitals by Val, once I launched it, I was like, like this is easy. I'm gonna jump in, I'm gonna post all this content and all of that. And then shortly after I launched Vitals by Val, I got the corporate job that I wanted. And for me, I was ecstatic. I was like, I could do this. I could I can handle both, working full time, my 9 to 5, while also being able to manage Vitals by Val. And honestly, that was a lie. That was a lie. It was a lie because I had to prioritize what was paying my bills, what was giving me the money every single month. And that was my professional life. And that's like kind of like one aspect of it, like, the professional of it, and how I had to prioritize that in that one moment of my life. But I still, like, behind the scenes was working on Vitals by Val, and just kind of little by little going, and really just being like, this is what I want, this is what I'm passionate about. And I would definitely, like, after my 9 to 5, I would have that dedicated time after work to just be like, this is what I'm working on. I made myself a list, and every day, just me putting like a little bit more into Vitals by Val, slowly but surely it started to grow, and, build a platform and share the information that I really wanted to kind of share with everyone out there.
And plus, like, the beauty of it is you're also kind of going through the process of figuring it out in all different components of your life, whether it was the corporate job or whether it was balancing the corporate job with Vitals by Val. That is only like part of what Vitals by Val is all about, is how do you balance it all? Or like, how do you make sure you're taking the steps towards your fitness goals or taking the steps towards your wellness goal? Sometimes it does take small little steps every day, or working up to those steps every day for something to build or things actually to start happening for you. The focus and the discipline also goes hand in hand with that too. So yeah, I think it's really cool that, I mean, there's a community out there that you're trying to build that kind of recognizes that it's okay if you can't do it all. But at the same time, there are things you can do depending on what your goals are to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Um,
And that's exactly what I wanted to portray out there. It's like we see social media and it's great. Like, we have the educational part, we have the inspirational part, but we always see the end product. We never see kind of the behind the scenes, like the struggles, the battles that we're all going through. And I wanted to have an opportunity to be able to share that. Like, life is not perfect. We have to prioritize things. We have to do other things, and we have to check in with ourselves and share. I love seeing when people are like, today was just not a good day. And how that community comes in and says, like, like, you got this. I'm glad you're feeling better. Like, I love when I receive those messages. Is what kind of keeps me going um, every day. So
yeah, no, I agree. Same for me as well. And I think that's about like just fostering that community. Social media is a little bit all over the place. So it's a matter of like really putting people in your community of Instagram in that space that inspire you, that motivate you, that really like get you to where you want to be. Because I think there's a lot of ways that you could compare yourself to others and like get
mhm.
lost in like an endless circle of like, well, it doesn't look like I have as many clients as that person, or like it doesn't look like I'm getting to where, that person in the same industry is, and things like that. But I think that's also part of really navigating it all, right? I mean, kind of going off of that, like, how would you say that you feel as though you're balancing it right now with everything that you have going on?
I would be lying to you if I say like I have it all figured out, that it's
No, tell us the truth. Tell us the truth.
no, because I'm like, I even think about it, I was like, oh, like, do I really have it balanced out? And no, that's not really the truth. Like, there's times, like, again, I'm focused on my professional life. A lot of times I'm focused on like my personal life, not even just like from a well-being perspective, but just like things that happen on a day-to-day basis. For me, part of my journey in Vitals by Val was, in 2022, I lost like two very important people in my life. And,
Mm.
I feel like I still experience that now still in my life. Like, how do I balance that emotional, like, grief process with just like still being a human being?
Yeah.
And it's just kind of like, what do you choose? How do you choose to show up? Like, what are you prioritizing in that day? And what do you have the capacity to do that day? And it could be even like a checklist, or it could be like just some notes that you're like, okay, like if you accomplish this, like, you're feeling good. And for me, like how I balance it is like, I choose to show up for my, 9 to 5, and I'll put boundaries around it, especially working from home. It's so hard to put
Yep.
boundaries because you're like, I'm just gonna log in one moment here, or I'm just gonna check my phone to see if I have an email. And I'm like, no, like my working time is from X to X, and then that's, after that, what am I doing? I'm going to dedicate, an hour or two to better Beval, going back to that. Like, what can I do to get me that 1% closer to
Hmm.
where I want to be? And then at the same time, it's just like, kind of having dedicated time for what I want to do. I'm not a morning person. I will say that truthfully. But what have I had the opportunity to do is that I wake up early. I wake up
Mm.
5 o'clock in the morning. I take that time to, meditate, to just work on my spirituality, like kind of get myself together, as well as working out. So I'll take my hour at the gym so I'm not rushing. And then I'll come do my work, and then I'll have my dedicated time for Vitals by Val. And then after that, I'll have the time for myself, for whoever else I'm going to spend my time with, and then have my routine. And so I think that's where it really hones down into having like a nice routine and being flexible, because not
Yeah.
every day is perfect how I'm describing it, but having that flexibility and being determined of like, I want to get this done today, and having that sense of gratitude that I get to do this
Yeah.
today. I think that mindset of just being determined, wanting to get these things done, and ultimately knowing that it's gonna be good for you in the long run, I think really what gets you day to day and helps you find that balance.
I agree wholeheartedly, but also especially how beautifully you said it, where sometimes it's all about just prioritize. What can you prioritize today?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't have to be the same thing every day. Like, today I want to prioritize my health, or, today I want to make sure that I'm prioritizing my family. And thank you for sharing that too, because I feel like there's so many factors, obviously, in our day to day as entrepreneurs, in our business and what we want to accomplish. But at the end of the day, there's so many other factors that are more important, like more important in the whole sense of the world and
Yeah.
life. Your family and your friends and people who are there for you every day, the love and support, how you're really exemplifying it. When someone is at a hospital, they're taking different types of vitals, right? Your vitals are not supposed to be balanced. Like, there are different ways. Like, one thing could be going up high while other things could be going up low. There are
Sure.
certain components that could be balanced, but there's not really like a uh,
It's
I'm
not
a,
like it's not a
yeah,
linear.
like an ideal, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So I feel like that only speaks towards what can you focus on today? What can you do to really feel like you're making those small movements towards where you want to be? Because I experience that all the time. It's just tough. There are so many things you want to do, and there's never enough time in the
Yeah.
day. But then I also have to remind myself, like, if I could choose one thing today that would make me feel very accomplished or make me feel
Yeah.
very fulfilled, what I needed to fulfill today, like, what would that be? And it's
Exactly.
true, if I'm thinking back at it now, it's not always in the same area of my life. Sometimes it is just, oh, I want to go to the gym today because I want to make sure I hit, 3 days a week this week. Or another time it's, well, I want to prioritize a big project that I've been trying to
Mhm.
finish at work. I think it's incredible that that's the same mentality that you're trying to really create in a community, because I don't think it's something that is seen as often as we would like for it to be seen,
Exactly.
with hustle culture and, you know, things that are being portrayed of seeing the end product of something and not seeing it through the whole way. If someone were to come to you in terms of struggling with balance or struggling with like what they want to accomplish with their wellness, like,
Mhm.
what would your advice be if they are struggling? Where should they start?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's so interesting because I feel like I've never been asked that question. Truthfully, like I find myself a lot of times in that situation, like, what am I doing with my life? Even to this point, I would say that first things first is just to kind of take, again, that step back. Really take a
Mm,
moment. I love journaling. I love the power of journaling because you can be so overwhelmed. Your mind can be in 1,001 places. And I found this out a few years ago that it's basically just kind of like a mindless like brain dump. You're gonna put
yeah.
like a timer for 5 minutes or 3 to 5 minutes, and you're just gonna start journaling. And you're just gonna let your mind keep going. And if like nothing comes to mind, you just gonna be like, I don't know what to write. But you'll
It's
see
like
how,
word
yeah,
vomit, but
or
yeah.
but like you're writing it, and I feel like that's where you really see like the patterns or the things that you want to focus on because you're giving yourself that space to be like, okay, what's really bothering me? What do I want to work on? What do I want to accomplish? And from there, when you take that piece you've written, you can extrapolate like some like 2 to 3 goals that you want to work on, like based on what you wrote. The things that people want to work more on is their physical health,
Hmm.
something related to money, and usually something related to like a relationship in their life. With like the physical part of it, like that, all of that, you can then, those 3 big goals, you can break down into other goals. But that's where I recommend, when I heard this in school and I thought it was so silly at the time, but it's really true. Like what you call SMART goals, what is,
Hmm.
have a specific goal that is measurable, it's attainable. Like you're not going to be like, I want $1 million by October. Like that's in a few months. That's not like, it's not realistic. And it's,
Yeah.
if you hit the lottery, then for sure. But yeah, then it's like measurable and you have a time frame. So when it comes to physical goals, identify what is it that you're doing that you're doing now that you're not doing what you want to be. um, I'm not working out. Okay, so people are like, I want to go work out 5 times a week. No, let's slowly get into it. And let's start off with 1 to 2 times a week, 2 to 3 times a week. It doesn't have to be a full blown workout, but just say, I'm going to take 3 times a week and I'm going to go outside and walk for 30 minutes. That's more than what you did the previous week. And then from there, you'll slowly start increasing what you want to accomplish. But I think that when you really take that moment to celebrate, like, wow, I wasn't working out and now I am, and then you start seeing again those little things every single day, that progress is what's going to get you there. And that's just like one part of it. Like, once you really are able to understand your goals and have a plan of how you're going to achieve that goal, that's what really helps you find the balance, find like prioritize, really understand what is it that you want and how you can get there. So yeah, like kind of in a summary, it's like giving yourself that moment to reflect on what is
Mhm.
it you're doing now and where you want to be, and then identifying those clear goals and then having that action plan moving forward of like how you're going to get there, and really putting in the work, like executing, because if that's what you want, you're going to have to put in the time and effort and energy. And
Right.
that's why I say, be specific on what you want to do and make sure it's realistic, to
Mhm.
ensure that you're not going to be disappointed, or you're going to be like, oh, like this is not working for me. Like that's where the flexibility comes in. Okay, what can work for you based on your schedule, based on what you do.
Right. I can't believe you never answered that question because you answered that like a pro. Yeah.
I feel like
Like
in some way, like I like these are things that you like talk about all the time, but never in like a direct question like this.
I guess it's true. And plus it's I mean what you've been practicing and trying to incorporate for
Yeah.
yourself too. So even though it's maybe not a direct question, you also have put in the practice and like the systems, the structure for yourself that has worked, and obviously recognizing that there are like dips sometimes and things that happen, but going back to taking a step back and word vomiting on a page, I've done that before, and that's super helpful because you're almost like reading it as if someone else wrote it. So you're almost not judging yourself for
Yeah.
everything that you wrote. It's kind of like a bird's eye view of everything that's in your head. So you're then able to like extrapolate, like, or pull things that you're like, oh, like this makes sense. Like I've been really struggling with this, and you can tell in everything that I wrote. If anybody who's listening can take even just a percentage, like there are so many people who have journaled before. There's so many people who have
Mhm.
written SMART goals before, but maybe you haven't done it in any of these particular ways that we've talked about. That's
Mm.
worth trying. Why not? If you are struggling, if you are feeling a bit like stuck or just all over the place, I feel like even doing small little things from everything that you said could help kind of ground what is my next step.
Yeah,
um,
and like I could even share quickly kind of like my own,
yeah,
and like with this whole like vitals by Val journey and like the vitals of entrepreneurship. Like I said, in 2022, I experienced a very big loss and I had to take that step back. At the end of the year, I was like, this was such a crazy year that I felt lost. And to a point that I even got a life coach, which is great. I love her to death and I feel like she helped me so much. But I had to take that step back and I'm like, okay, 2023 is a year that I want to work on, and kind of like fast forwarding to now, I was determined to make, Vitals by Val like a business, going back to like what we said initially. Like I didn't even feel like it's still a business. I just feel like it's something like a baby that's growing, just like
yeah.
taking its little steps like here and there. But with the
That
ups
you
and
have to like
downs,
nurture every day. Yeah.
yeah, that's definitely it. Like I'm feeding it, everything. Like with the ups and downs, I would take long pauses. I would post here and there. Like I wasn't consistent with it, and that's something else that consistency. Like once you have an action plan, like how you're going to be consistent on that. But fast forward to like 2 years of just like doubting myself, kind of second guessing, going to that back to like the comparison on social media. It was just a moment for me that I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it. You read all these quotes and try to be motivational, but that's truly what it is. It's just really just getting up and doing it. I got to a point that I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna put together this free offering of like a workout program that's kind of like the avenue I want to proceed in. And I also launched my website, and I'm like, these little things like just I was over the moon, honestly, but really got me to a point where I'm like, okay, I could do this, and I have so much people that believe in me, and ultimately, I needed to believe in myself and get that confidence
Mhm.
boost. And but then, funny enough, going back to the ups and downs of everything, is that after that launch, which was earlier in the year, it took out all my energy, which is it's a thing. Like you get drained. So same time that you
Yeah.
say like social battery, like I was so drained after that like I couldn't seem to like move forward in my plans, even if I had my all my goals written out, all my plans and everything. And I slowly but surely kind of like kept posting here and there, um, slightly kept working on what I wanted to launch next, but it was kind of just like a little flat line for a while. And it wasn't until like you reached out and you're like, hey, like I want to interview you for Small Biz Diaries and as a business owner. And I was like, really consider myself. And it's funny because I looked at the message and I told myself, I was like, I don't consider myself a business owner. Like I'm not making money. I'm not selling anything yet. And a moment of like self-doubt and just questioning yourself. And I was like, you know what, Val? Who gives an F if
Yep.
that's what what society calls a business owner? Like at the end of the day, I'm putting my time and effort into something I'm very passionate about, and I want to do this. And I've been resilient through a lot of the things that I've experienced in the past 3 years or so. That I'm like, regardless of the challenges, regardless of the setbacks I've experienced, like this is something that I want to do. So why not seize the moment, the opportunity of like coming up here and just being like, hey, like this is what I have to offer in a sense of like my time, my knowledge, like the information out there. And honestly, that I feel like that was what really pushed me to be like, all right, like Better Global is a business. You have to
Yeah.
start believing, and you just
Yeah.
gotta keep going from there. So thank you. But
Oh my
it's what
God.
you mentioned. You're like, wow, like I didn't know that you weren't doing this, or like it's so funny because from what other people see, like they don't as much as I'm trying to be authentic and real and kind of show the behind the scenes, like sometimes it's okay to be private,
Mhm.
but at the end of the day, like there's a lot of things that go on that people
Yeah.
don't know out there. So
I love that you told that story because I was hoping you would and share like the vulnerability honestly component of
Mhm.
it all because yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of people probably feel similarly. It's almost scary to call yourself a business or like to call yourself a business owner because it's almost like you're adding a little bit of pressure on like, can I make this into a business? Can I make, because you obviously, like, if you could quit your 9 to 5 and do this full time,
oh,
I mean,
I'll be ecstatic.
yeah,
Like
amazing. But at the same time, like, there's a reality of, the structure of society and things that need to happen. And to me at least, like from my perspective, I was like, she's adding so much value and motivation to me and things that I'm seeing on a daily basis. Like that was what my mentality was. Like there's so many other people that could benefit from this because you're inspiring my timeline and I'd rather put people in my corner, put people in my surroundings that are doing the same because that's what we need is that you can make those small steps to get to where you want to be and even just your website and things like that. Businesses have websites. Like there's like small little things that you were already doing. I think that that's part of the ebbs and flows of it. I mean, I remember when I started Marketing by Hope 3 years ago. And I was just like, what? I'm a business owner. I'm an entrepreneur.
scary.
At Bentley in college, like that's all you're taught is business and being like entrepreneur and how that's a thing. And successful businesses do this and do that. And obviously, so it's not like I was unfamiliar with the term. It was just more of like personifying it for myself. How do I step into that for myself? Yes, of course, you hear success stories of successful businesses, but it's not as common to really hear the beginning stages as much unless there's like a very big like success story at the end that you're like, oh well, these were my beginnings, these were where I started. But I feel like the journey needs to start from the beginning because that's really where how it got you to where you are today if
Yeah.
you are a successful business. And that within itself is super inspiring and motivating. So I mean, I feel like you've shared on multiple occasions, like, oh, like I didn't really feel like going to the gym today, or oh, like this was my like something I had to do for work today, and I still had to try to fit the gym, things like that. And it's just like that's the reality of it. That's the reality of wellness, especially right now, today, is just like there's so much you want to do in a day, but prioritizing yourself and
Mhm.
prioritizing things you want to get done is such an important part of reminding yourself that you come first. Like
Exactly.
it's the
No,
job.
that's a great point.
Yeah, like the job should be secondary. Or,
Yeah.
even as a small business owner, like it could get so easy to get caught up in like, there's always a to do list. Like there's always stuff that needs to get.
There's always something to do. There's always somewhere to be, and like that's why I love those check-ins. Like I try to have like time where I step outside or just take like a breath or something because when you don't put yourself first, like you'll see that everything is going to catch up to you. You'll feel it mentally, you'll feel it physically, and you don't want to get to that point where you're just like you have to make a change
Mhm.
versus like you get to in that time, like I've seen so many quotes about how people when they're older like past 50s or something, they'll say like, oh, like I wish I would have worked out more, I wish I would have put sunscreen more. Like these are little things that
Mhm.
you can just hear and just like disregard, and I'm like, no, like I don't want to get to that point where I'm just kind of regretting not doing something when I'm thankful that I'm able to do that now. I'm able to move. I'm able to do certain things. And I think that's where it comes back to prioritizing yourself.
Mhm.
But two, the gratitude part of it. We get to do these things. We don't have to do these things. And I think gratitude goes a long, long way.
I agree. I have a gratitude journal I try to write in every day. And my fiance and I have a practice at the end of the day while we're getting ready for bed. We'll be like, oh,
Hmm.
like, what are 3 things you're grateful for today? Because no matter what, like, you could have
I
had a
love
very
that.
shitty day. But if you're ending the day with gratitude of just like, what is something that you are grateful for, it almost makes you feel at ease with going into sleep and like to welcome a new day. Yeah, I feel like the fact that you've mentioned that multiple times, like even when you're talking, you're like, oh, well, I had the opportunity to, I feel
Hmm.
like that's coming from a place of gratitude because it's like not everybody has the opportunity to do all the things that we get to do on a day-to-day basis. So if you are leading with gratitude, it's almost like in its own way motivating or like helpful to keep you going, like keep you pushing forward.
Yeah.
Um, so I guess in the spirit of vulnerability, do you feel like there's something that you're struggling with right now as an entrepreneur, like something that you're trying to push through, like specifically, or, and I'm going to share myself too, but anything that you feel like comes to mind?
No, yeah, the prioritization and like the time management. It's easier said than done. I have to juggle when it's professional, personal, everything else in between, and I for me, that execution part of it, of I have my plan, what am I doing about it? And like, I know what I want to do, and it's like, how do I not get caught up in the day to day, where I can actually be like, I'm gonna post this today, or I'm gonna work on this project that I'm doing, and setting myself these deadlines, kind of, to be able to meet them. Those are the things I struggle with the most, even with my checklist, my prioritization, my
Yeah.
plan. That's the reality of it, and I could sit here and talk about it, but also I could say, like, I experienced that too. Like,
You
it's
recognize.
hard for me to do that too. But one of my favorite quotes, or I think I made this up myself, but I think when you move with intention, like, things start to shift in your life. So if I'm putting out that the intention that I want to work on this today, then things start moving and things are happening.
Yeah.
Maybe exactly what's accomplished, but I'm like, I'm gonna post today because
Hmm.
I don't know who this is going to help, or who needs this, or who needs to learn about this. But I always kind of put it out there as, like, whoever this is meant to touch, to inspire, then that makes me happy. Even if it's just one person, at the end of the
Yeah.
day, like, you're helping someone else. And like, don't gatekeep things because of that too, because it's like, you don't know who you're making an impact to, or who you helping, or who's even smiling because of what you posted today. Everyone, at the end of the day, we relate to certain every like something, or someone, or something, anything. Like, it's all going to be relatable at the end of the day, and we all go through the similar struggles and challenges. So how can we help one another? And it kind of goes back to you know just doing it, just
Yeah.
execute, just move forward some way, shape, or form.
So it's funny because I can't make this up, but my vulnerability or my thing that I'm really struggling with is just because I work in social media, like I overthink everything that has to do with my content. Oh, it has to be this way, or like it has to be
Mhm.
this to like optimize like the post. I overthink it to the point where nothing ever ends up getting posted because I'm just like, oh, dang, like at that point,
I
it's
get
been
what it is.
3 weeks since I've gone to that coffee shop, or it's been 3 weeks since I've made that piece of art, whatever it is that I recorded that I wanted to share. And then it's almost like you lag. Like you're just like, okay, well, things keep getting pushed and pushed and pushed.
Mm-hmm.
So the fact that you shared that, at the end of the day, if one person, or like if what you're posting gets seen by one person, or motivates one person, or inspires one person, is kind of like what I was hearing in response to my challenge, because it's true. At the end of the day, like I think that's the struggle, or that's the like mental block, is because
Mm-hmm.
I went to business school, and because I have like a checklist in my mind that I'm always like going through, I forget there's a value behind it. There should be
Mm-hmm.
a value of service behind it, not just how am I making sure that this is like the best it can be with the algorithm or whatever it is, I guess like your answer ended up helping the
To
challenges
hear
I
that. I'm glad to hear that. And I want to briefly touch upon what you mentioned about, like, the service part of it. Like, at the end of the day, like, that's something that I always try to keep, like, Betters by Val. Yes, it's about wellness and helping others and all that. But I feel like, if I could ever give advice to anyone, would be just like that business aspect. And I know it's easier said than done, because when you get to that point, if you have the revenue, and your business is making that revenue to the point that you're like in a great place, but at the end of the day, like, just try to stay humble and make sure that you are providing like that service to someone, and you're bringing value to other people. I think there's a book called, like People Over Profit, and how much farther and longer your business goes, or just anything in life, like, goes way farther because you're prioritizing helping someone else, and and being there for someone else, because ultimately that's kind of like what matters. We have to help each other, we have to be each other's support system. Like, how do we build that community to just be better every day? And that kind of like what Vital by Val is grounded on, of how can I help you? How can we help each other to be better? Because it's like, okay, yeah, I'm providing you a wellness service or being like your coach, but at the end of the day, I love, because like even speaking to you, like I've learned so much from you, and like just hearing you and just how like, you expressing yourself to me, I'm like, wow, like I didn't think of it like this, or like this, I'm taking this for like something else. Like I'm gonna reflect every night on three things, even if it was a crazy day, you know? So I think that's kind of like something to always keep in your mind.
It's really been so great to be able to hear not only about your journey, but the the ebbs and flows that you went through and that you're still going through, and that entrepreneurs really go through on a daily,
Mhm.
if not like weekly basis. It can be a lot of whiplash of just small moments of gratification of like, yeah, wow, like I was able to do this, but then, the next day you're overwhelmed with something else. It can be very up and down. So creating some of those boundaries and practices for you as an entrepreneur to really focus on your wellness and focus on what you're looking to, accomplish
Mhm.
is going to be so incredibly helpful, I think. I can't thank you enough for sharing all that you did, and just being able to be so open about the journey and where you're at now and all of the things, because it's helpful for people to hear. Is there anything else that you feel as though you wanted to share or that you wanted to leave people with?
Yeah, no, again, thank you again for having me. I'll try to keep it short and sweet with like some advice. Like I've had to apply that to myself too. Rome was not built in a day.
Yeah.
Um, Great things come with time, and I've had to learn that. I was always like rushing and like, I want this to be done tomorrow. I want this to be done next week. And like I said, another part of it would be like being flexible. Things take time, stay flexible. And ultimately, if anything you can take away from my story or just myself is that, being determined and being resilient goes a long way. Life is bound to have all these challenges and setbacks, but the ability to really recover and like rebound from all this with your goal and staying like laser focused on what you want goes a long way, because
Mhm.
ultimately, regardless of what happens, you always have that North Star to kind of go back to and keep leading towards. And I think that's just amazing. And even like I say that for myself moving forward, I'm excited to very soon launch my programs and start bringing out some products that I want. And I'm speaking that into existence
Do it.
completely.
Yeah, I
And I
love it.
look back and be like, oh, wow, I said that. And look, it's here. But,
Yeah,
you know,
there you go.
I just invite everyone to just get started. As much as you hear it, like you literally just have to just take that first step and kind of just let life take its course, as long as you know where you want to head and where you're going to go. And ultimately, everything's going to work out for the greater good and obviously for the best.
I feel like there's a part two that we could do here, because I feel like even
Oh,
the
definitely.
yeah, even the like moving with intention, there is a lot of science nowadays that is showing that neuroplasticity, you are in more control than what you think.
Mhm.
There's a lot of things that you feel as though they're out of your control, but with the right mindset, with the right intentions, with the right motivation, you can accomplish more than you think of where you want to be. And whether it is just manifesting it or doing those small things to be able to almost move it from your subconscious to your
Yeah.
conscious mind, and okay, now that I got it out and vocalized it, like how can I make this happen?
Yeah.
um so yeah, I think there's a
We
part
could
two.
talk about this like a whole separate topic about like the
Yeah,
science behind everything, like, and it's just it's true. It's all true. What you think is what kind of like comes out in your life. So I always say like just try to be positive, optimistic, like no matter how bad something might seem, try to take a step back and look at it from a positive way. Like, what is this really teaching me?
yeah,
And what can I do because of this? So that's a
yeah,
whole other topic. We can spend a
that's
whole hour.
it. That's how I'm like, oh wow, I feel like got the surface level, maybe a little bit below the surface level out, and then we'll have to dive in deeper. But yeah, I can't thank you enough. Thank you so much for just being you and being so radiant and positive and sharing your insights. It's so helpful, and even for me. So I do truly appreciate it. But yeah, thank you, Val. And
Yes.
like
Well,
Val
thank
said,
you.
I'll keep an eye out for her next things, and I'll make sure to add her username and all the things to go follow her as well. So, any, I appreciate your time, Val. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. This is great, and I hope everyone takes at least a little bit from this. So yeah,
Agreed.
thank you everyone for listening, and thank you for having me.
Thank you.